Henry and the Flagpole. All the engines on the island of Sodor were very excited. There was soon to be a banquet at the Scottish castle. Thomas was being a really useful engine. He had to make sure everything was ready on time. There would be food, games, and bagpipe playing, and the Fat Controller would wear his kilt. Meanwhile, Henry was also working very hard. He was steaming across Sodor, pulling trucks full of supplies for the banquet. As he puffed through the forest, he spotted his favorite tree. Seeing the tall pine tree made Henry very happy. As he arrived at the Scottish castle, Henry noticed that the Fat Controller was waiting for him. "The castle's flagpole is too old," the Fat Controller explained. "It could fall down and hurt someone at the party. Henry, I need you to collect the new flagpole from the docks in time for the banquet." "Yes, sir," puffed Henry. He knew this was a very important job. Henry chugged into the docks. He couldn't see the flagpole anywhere. He looked high and low, but could not find it. Then Henry saw Cranky. He was so busy saying "hello" to him that he puffed straight into a flatbed truck with a flagpole on it. "Whoops!" Henry cried, as the flagpole rolled off the flatbed and onto the next track. "You weren't looking where you were going," snapped Cranky. Henry felt very silly. Just then there was a loud crash. Salty had run over the flagpole. "The flagpole's broken!" the dock manager cried. Soon the Fat Controller arrived. He looked very cross. "This is a disaster!" he boomed. "The Scottish castle will not look the same without its flagpole." Henry was very sad. It was all his fault. That evening, Henry was puffing back through the forest. "Maybe seeing the tall pine tree will cheer me up," Henry huffed. But not even the tall pine tree could make Henry feel better. Toby pulled up beside him and saw that Henry was sad. "I wish I hadn't broken the flagpole," Henry sighed. "Maybe they could make a new flagpole out of one of these tall trees," Toby puffed, trying to cheer Henry up. Henry was very worried. He really didn't want the tall pine tree to be cut down. The next morning, Henry pulled out of Tin Sheds. He had to take some workmen to the forest. He could see they were carrying axes and saws. "Oh no," wheezed Henry. "They must be going to cut down my tall pine tree." Henry was worried. "Must save the tree, must save the tree," he chirped to himself as he made his way towards the forest. Suddenly, Henry had an idea. He wouldn't take the workmen to the forest. He would look for a new flagpole. The workmen noticed that he was going the wrong way. "This isn't the way to the forest," said one of the workmen. But Henry wasn't listening. He was looking for a new flagpole. Henry puffed past the beach. There was a large red and green flag flying there. The flagpole was tall, but not tall enough. "Bother," wheezed Henry sadly. "I'll never save the tall pine tree." That evening, the Fat Controller came to see Henry at the sheds. "Henry, those workmen had a very important job to do. You have caused a delay," he said sternly. "Tomorrow you will take coal to the docks." The next day, Henry puffed sadly through the countryside. "Soon they'll cut down the tall pine tree," huffed Henry, "and I'll never see it again." Henry was collecting the coal when Thomas arrived. He explained what had happened. "I can't find another flagpole," said Henry. "I've looked everywhere." "I'd look again," puffed Thomas. Sometimes I find things in places I'd never thought of. Later that day, Henry was puffing across the countryside. Where can I look that I wouldn't think of looking? He wondered. Henry looked around. He couldn't see anything that would make a good flagpole. He puffed past the orchard, but he only saw Trevor. Trevor is very nice, puffed Henry, but he wouldn't make a very good flagpole. Henry puffed sadly into the docks. I've looked everywhere, he sighed, and I still couldn't find a flagpole. Suddenly, Henry's face brightened. What about the old ship's mast? He puffed. It's going to be used for firewood, Salty said. But it will be perfect for the castle flagpole, Henry chuffed. Henry was excited. At last he had found a new flagpole, and where he'd least expected it too. Cranky lowered the ship's mast onto a flatbed truck, and Henry raced across the countryside, pulling it towards the forest. He had to get to the tall pine tree before they cut it down. When Henry arrived at the forest, the tall pine tree was still there. He showed the Fat Controller the ship's mast, and he was delighted. So you won't cut the tall pine tree down? Asked Henry. I would never cut the tall pine tree down, exclaimed the Fat Controller. The workmen are here to collect firewood for a roaring fire at the Scottish castle banquet. Henry was so happy his axles tingled. That evening, when Henry arrived at the Scottish castle, the workmen were waiting at the station, ready to put up the new flagpole. The flag was soon hoisted up, and it moved gently in the breeze. It was the nicest thing Henry had seen, except for the tall pine tree.